Hello and welcome to Crux Investor. We're caught up with Rana today, CEO of Blue Lagoon Resources. He's also joined by his colleague, Bill Cronk, and they talk through their business plan. And despite getting into production soon, the main focus of this story is around their exploration play. 15 known high-grade veins already and 5 targets in the planning. That's where the scale of the opportunity is coming from. If you want to see precisely what we talked about today, do take a look in the description below. And also don't forget to give us a like and leave your comments below. Gentlemen, how are you both?
Excellent, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Good for coming on. Good for running. We haven't seen you since November. Hope you are well. Are you at home?
So far, so good. COVID-free and healthy and smiling.
That's what we like to say. And we've been joined today by Bill as well. Bill, are you on site, are you?
I am. I'll be here for another 2 months or so.
Right, okay. Getting in, stuck in with both feet, as we say here in these parts. Well, I'm glad you came back on. There's been a bit of movement in the gold market, down and then back up, and copper market seems to be getting very, very exciting. And you guys are getting near production from what I read. So good timing, I think. Rana, why don't you kick off and give people new to this story a 1-minute overview of what it is that you are trying to do there, and I'll pick it up from there.
Sure. Those who are new to the story, I mean, we have 3 properties, but really the project that we're focusing on is Dome Mountain, and there's 3 key elements to our project. One, we're near production, and by that I mean true near production, and we can talk about that a little later. We're meaning that we fully expect to be there sometime later this year. Number 2, we have a clear path to 1 million ounces plus on our main Boulder vein, which has a nice starter resource, lots of gold and silver, high grade, 12 grams a ton plus. And we have this incredible 19,000 hectare property that's been under the radar for all these years that has shown us some multiple targets that we can go after. So lots of blue skies. So those are the 3 key things for our project.
Beautiful. And we'll hit all of those in just a minute. But last time we spoke, we kind of talked about the entire portfolio of projects. And I do want to sort of at least pay attention to those and then maybe perhaps park them up and focus on main project Dome Mountain. So copper's hot at the moment, all-time highs in terms of price. You've got a copper porphyry project. Anything happening there, or are you trying to move it forward? Are you looking for strategic partners? Because I think that was a potential there for you guys. What's happening?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm a big believer of focus, Matt. So we want to stay focused on really developing this Dome project, which we're so close in, and like I said earlier, tremendous blue sky. So with the copper project, that was very interesting. It has a historical resource on it. It's got over $8 million spent on it with over 300 holes, and we're getting interest. And you're right, with copper, hitting all-time highs. We're looking for potential partners. We're gonna figure out a way to monetize that here shortly. But you know what? I'm not in a panic or in a rush. I don't think copper is going to go anywhere, for the next little while. It looks like we're gonna kind of figure out the best way to monetize this and get the best value for our shareholders. So, I
mean, you talked about having a data room previously. We talked about 650 million pounds. So it's not huge, but it's not small either. Have you had people banging on the door? Have you had conversations?
Just starting to. We're just got everything all sort of aligned, and we've signed a couple of CAs, and we're getting people to start to take a look at that at the project now.
Okay, that'll be interesting because I know there's a historical 43-101, so you're not starting from ground zero on those conversations. So your expectation is, let's see how that goes the rest of the year. No rush. You certainly don't want to be spending your own dollars on it yet.
Yeah, look, my approach to the company always is a business first, right? I'm an entrepreneur, so that's what I look for. I want to see, what is the best deal that we can get for our shareholders. So, and you never get a good deal if you're in a panic. So, I'm patient. Copper is, I think, going to be in play for the next few years. So we're and we don't have to. One of the things I like about this is it's not going to cost us any money. We've amalgamated the claims because both properties, our Dome Mountain property and our Big Onion, sit together side by side. We've joined them. So now any work that we do on one property automatically qualifies the other. So we can sit here for a long time without it costing us a penny.
Okay. Fine. So we'll come back to that at some later date. Pellair, last time we spoke, you talked about having a stockpile at surface, and this summer, 2022, you'd be evaluating, what you did with it, and it wouldn't cost you very much, a few $100,000. So what's happened?
It's only 2021, Matt. You said 22. We're not quite there.
I know. So you did say, you're right. You did say 2021. You told me 2021.
Yeah.
Summer 2021.
Yeah, well, we are working on that. In fact, Bill is planning to get down there here in the next few weeks and start that process because we don't need any permits. There is a little bit of a infrastructure that needs to be developed. It's a couple of small bridges and opening up the road. It's less than $200,000. We've already budgeted for that, and we're going to be doing that. So it is our anticipation that we will start trucking that out sometime later this summer.
Okay, so revenue to be expected from that.
Exactly. Some more cash coming back into the treasury. Okay,
but does some money got to go out of the treasury? Have you got money to do that in terms of bridges? And
we're still looking good. Look, we raised $7.5 million roughly when we spoke last. We've done about 7,700 meters of drilling, so that's a couple $1 million that we've spent on that. Have got great results. We've spent $2 million on plus on the amendments that were required to get this into production. And after all that, we still have just a little under $3 million still in treasury. I've got no debt. So we're looking good. We've also got about $5 million in the money warrants that are starting to now, come in. We have very friendly shareholders. So and so that's going to, and the Pellair stockpile obviously is going to add some more cash back into the coffers.
Okay. Last time we spoke, you were at pains to tell me how tight you were with money. You wanted to make sure it was well worth spending the money. You said you were going to evaluate Pellair. What does that look like? Have you evaluated it? Do you know have you got a full costing on this thing, or you just know there's money to be made? We'll just start trucking it and see what happens.
Yeah, look, we've had a couple of companies come to us and said, look, why don't we give you proposals and give you, all sorts of studies. And, I'm like, no, I don't want to spend all this money on these studies and all these proposals. We don't feel we need them, right? Bill was down there with his crew last year, sampled at surface. Unfortunately, we couldn't get deeper because it was just solid as a rock, but we intend to do there now. But even at surface, it was grading nicely over 5 grams a ton. So we know that, it's, we have a good data that supports that it should be higher values underneath, and we're going to go in again this summer and get deeper into the pile, retest it to make sure that everything is on track, and then we believe we can. It's economic. We can take it. It's just a matter of how much are we going to make. Of course, we'll try to maximize it, but it's free money as far as I'm concerned. Right back into the treasury to focus on our main project.
Okay, so more to come later this year. Again, we'll see how that goes. Let's talk about the main prize here, which is Dome Mountain. Again, why don't you give people the highlights here? Because I think we ran through some of those last time we spoke, but just for the new audience, remind people what it is that you've got there today.
Oh, at Dome Mountain, yes. Well, at Dome Mountain, as I mentioned earlier, we have 3 key plays here, right? We're near production, and the only reason this mine is not in production is because literally the owners, our predecessors, ran out of time, right? They're 83 years old, not in the best of health, and they only needed $2 more million. They had already spent $28 million in the last dozen years. And all on development, infrastructure, and permitting. Matt, it takes 20 years to get a permit in BC. The average is 14 years. Okay, so what we have is excuse the expression, gold, right? We have the permit is very key to us to be able to get this into cash flow. I'm living the dream of any CEO of a junior exploration company, right? That we can actually get this thing cash flowing. So we have deployed the $2 million. Bill and his crew up there have been working diligently. We've had more than 20 people on site underground working, getting all the bolting done. That's all complete. We news released the water treatment plant a few weeks ago, which is now all complete. We're just waiting to do the final tests, which we expect that'll start in about 2 to 3 weeks. Once that done, a second amendment will be complete, and then it's just a matter of ERM to finish the reclamation plans, which they're more than 60% done. So by the end of July, early August, we expect all of those amendments to be completed and submitted to the ministry, and then it's just a matter of working through the their channels to make sure that they agree that we've complied with everything they've asked us to do, and we should get the green light to start production, which we expect to be at some time later this year.
Okay, so and we talked previously about it being sort of around the 200 ton per day. So it's not a whole lot. I mean, have you been able to move that along any?
No, look, our strategy is we don't want to rock the boat, right? We have a permit, we have the environmental permits, we have everything that's required in order to get into production. So we don't want to change the game plan and throw something new at the ministry. What we want to do is get into production and be cash flowing. So the plan is to get there. And yes, you're correct. Look, we're permitted for 75,000 tons a year. So it's not a huge mine, 200 tons a day. But that's the beauty of this, because our story isn't that we're going to make this massive, amount of money and increase the market cap and shareholder value by being in production. Our real story is that we'll be able to take that money, multi-million dollars every year. Remember, there's a lot of silver here as well. We have a 1-to-4, gold to silver. So we can take that gold and silver and we can get it processed, get it cash flowing. We don't have to waste any time on trying to develop a mill on site, and all those things will come later. Right now, we have all the metallurgy done. I mean, this is literally turnkey. That's what I like about it. Day one, when we get the permission, we can start mining and get the material to Nikola Mining, the mill, which we have the agreement with, and be cash flowing. Take that money then, and then do two things. Number one, on our main boulder vein, we have a clear path to 1 million ounces plus. All right, spend the money there to start approving that out. And number two, we have these at least 5 targets that the first ever airborne survey on this property, a property-wide airborne survey, identified. We're going to go and put money into those targets to see, test our theories, because we believe we're sitting on a multi-million ounce property over here.
Okay, but what people aren't clear on is numbers, because you don't want to do studies because it's already a mine. You told me that. No need to. But the market needs a sense of the scale of the opportunity here. You talk about multi-million dollar, possibilities here, but then you're going to plow it back in the ground. So I'm trying to work out whether $40 million is a good valuation for your company, because I've got no data to go on.
Well, sure you do, right? You've just got to do a little bit of math. I hesitate because, there's a lot of rules around making projections and as a company. But it was interesting, I was on another interview the other day, and one of the newsletter writers, Jayant, number of people were asking me these questions, and he quickly did the math, right? Because I said, look, you guys are smart, do the math. It's about, we're going to do somewhere around 28,000 ounces at full tilt when we're up and running, and we're doing 75,000 tons a year. We'll do somewhere around 28,000 ounces a year. All right. Our costs are in line with all the other mining companies, that are in the province. So most companies. How
do I know that? How do I know the economics of what it's going to cost you per ounce? Give me something to work with there.
Well, we've done some of that work ourselves internally, right? Yeah, we've done that work. So most companies are somewhere around $1,000 an ounce to produce. Okay, so what? I was brought up being super conservative. You want to bump it up 20%, make it $1,200. You see, what you got to understand is, at 1,750, 1,800, 1,850 gold, these type of projects become extremely profitable. And that's the bottom line. Now, if we're talking about 1,200, 1,300 ounce gold, forget about it, right? So if you believe that gold's going to go down to $1,200, $1,300, we don't have really a production story here. It's not going to work. But anything above $1,700, we're going to make enough money in this by being in production to be able to redeploy that into the ground, for me to be able to for Bill to be able to do 25, 30, 40,000 meters a year without having to go back to the market. That to me is the key.
But the other aspect there is you don't need to go back to market, but you're going to plow it back in the ground, right? So I've seen some of the results. The drill results are throwing up some great high-grade results. They're fantastic. Big numbers there. They're over sort of narrower widths. So I guess it's maybe where Bill's going to step in and tell us what you've got, what you're looking at there. And you mentioned, we've talked previously and today about 5 targets that you've identified, I think we talked about 15 high grade veins already known there. So how do you approach Dome as a whole with the money that you're creating by getting into this early production to create something sizable so people can start seeing the extent and scale of the opportunity here?
Well, the approach is exploration, right? Exploration, development of the targets. That's the entire focus. That's the shining star of this project, that we can generate enough cash flow to keep us undiluted and move forward with a lot of exploration. We're talking ground geophysics. We're talking a lot of geochem, soil sample, prospecting, stream sets. And then the goal is drill. We have an existing target at the Boulder Vein system that we fully believe we can bring to 1 million ounces plus. We have free gold. Is a shining star. It's our priority target right now. It looks like it's an extensional high-grade gold vein system sitting right on top of a porphyry copper. That's going to be the first drill hole starting, well, hopefully within a couple of weeks. We have 12,000 meters left in our budget, and we're going to pop a whole bunch there. Then we have other high-grade vein targets that we could actually drill right now, as well as Forks, which has an historic resource. It's adjacent and looks like the structural trend is right into our Boulder vein system. We have a lot of targets. Now, when Rana mentioned 5 targets drawn from our geophysical survey, those are specifically 5 porphyry copper targets highlighted by the geophysical provider and our consultant. We also have a lot of structural hosted kind of vein type targets generated by that airborne survey. So what we're going to be doing starting next week, is on the ground, boots to the outcrop, soil sampling, and prioritizing all these targets for drilling this year and beyond. This year we plan on 4,000 to 5,000 soils. I figured it'd take about 15,000, 20,000 soils at a dense soils to cover the entire property. So once this cash flow is going to help continue year after year, the prospecting, the prioritization of these targets so we can drill them. It's all about drilling.
And on that note, Matt, this is not some pie in the sky, right? We have a good data, solid data on our Boulder vein, right? So for those people who are new and don't know the story, right, we have a nice little 200,000 roughly resource inferred and indicated, okay? And we have 1 million ounces of silver. The grades of the gold are about 12 grams a ton plus. So that's the nice starter resource. But to the west of that, there was 800 meters of drilling done in 2016. That's all mineralized. The only reason it's not in any category is because it hasn't been drilled enough. So that's the low-hanging fruit. So all Bill and his team's got to go do is go drill that out, and we can easily, more than double the resource and get to our, 450, 500,000 ounces. This is all on our website in our deck. There's a cross section there that people can take a look at, and then to the depth, right? This is open at depth. The deepest holes in the past were 160, 70, 180 meters. We went down the deepest so far, 338 meters. We hit 3.13 meters of almost 27 grams gold and 70 gram plus silver. Okay, that's the deepest point so far. So we know with the handful of holes that were done before, plus this hole that we just did, we confirm that there's lots of development, that we can go below. So once again, moving our towards our goal of 1 million plus ounces. And then there's the Boulder East, okay, which we drilled, all news release, all high grade in several holes. Plus, the airborne survey identified a beautiful mag feature that's 1.5 kilometers long, which appears to be the extension of that vein. So now we're going to go and test that. So either it's going to be the extension of that vein or possibly a new discovery. Either way, I'm happy, right? So, so that's our path towards that 1 million plus ounces just on the Boulder vein. Beyond that, remember, there's still 15 other known high-grade veins something that's already known that Noranda was there, that in the 80s, 90s. So we know there's a historical resource there. There's other veins, and that encompasses, Matt, less than 10% of the property. Then there's this vast 19,000 hectares that hasn't been explored. The challenge in the past has been on this property. Why has this been under the radar? Because they get so hung up, but it's only 75,000 tons a year. Folks, this is not a production story. This is an exploration story. We are going to take it to production, have it cash flow, redeploy the cash back into the ground, and develop this property, which we believe is significant.
Okay, so I'm glad you brought that up and made that clear. So when you said earlier it's not a production story, what you're referring to the fact is there's production that you're going to get into, but it's small scale, but it's enough to generate enough cash to allow you to do exploration of what you believe is a meaningful district, meaningful property. We've already seen lots of high grade veining, which is great. Here's the second part of it, which is the bit I think that people don't yet get, which is you've been very unconventional. You've used the word entrepreneur once or twice already. The unconventional nature of entrepreneurs makes people nervous in a conventional setting. So as you're producing cash, I can see existing mine don't need to follow convention. But as you move through into this exploration and you start using words like resource and 1 million ounce and so forth, you are going to have to change the mindset, aren't you, to make people feel comfortable.
Oh, absolutely. Look, when I'm saying entrepreneurial, my approach is to make the what I believe is the best decisions, for the company, given the cash and how to move the projects forward at the stage that they're in. For exploration, absolutely. We just brought in one of a very senior gentleman who knows a small, high grade vein systems. We've employed him. We're going to employ him to do the next resource. So absolutely, we're going to take the conventional approach from that perspective, where Bill and his team are going to drill, increase the resource, and have professionals come in and do the right update the 43-101 so that the market understands. Absolutely, that 100%. We're not deviating from that at all.
So will you be stepping aside at some point?
Yes, look, I am a firm believer of only be there to add value. I don't need a job. I don't need to be here for that. I'm not looking for a paycheck. I've been very fortunate, Matt. My last two deals, which were non-resource, one was a $520 million raise when I took that company public. It was nearly a $6 billion RTO. Today, it still trades at $12 billion market cap. My second company in 2018 was a $300 million raise, that I took public, again, in a non-resource sector. It was a $2 billion RTO. 2 weeks ago, it got sold for $2.1 billion. So I'm very fortunate. I made some money. I've made, some investors along the way, a lot of money. And now my focus is this, because I started 11 years ago in mining, in the capital markets. So I've come back to that, and this is my next focus for the next little while. So absolutely, I'm at the right time as Bill and his team start to develop this project further. I will, in a snap of a finger, when I feel it's the right time, step aside, bring somebody else in who can take the company to the next level. One of the most important things always to know about yourself is what your strengths are, but more importantly, what your weaknesses are. And I'm very, very conscious of that. And I understand that as an entrepreneur, you can take a company to, X level, but in order to get to the next level, you must bring in other talent. So I'm 100% all about that. Listen, remember, I just added since we spoke, by the way, I've added more than 1 million shares to my personal share position. I've got now about 5% of the company. I've written checks, right? The financing I participated participated in last time was at $1, and I put in $300,000, right? And I put more money into since then. So I'm fully vested in this, and I believe in this project, and which is why we're working hard and diligently to keep advancing it.
You do. You're in it. You've got clear vision here. But do you think the market gets it? Because your price has come off since we last spoke in November. What's happened? Gold's come off a bit, sure, but people haven't kind of latched onto it yet. Are they waiting for this conventional component to kick in? Do you think that's it?
No, I don't think so. I think we were well on our way, and then it didn't come off a bit. Gold went below 1,700 there for a little bit, and if you look at our chart, you'll see right about that time is when we started dropping, just like everybody else. People have people who are not investors, right? Especially in North America, they're traders. There's nothing wrong with that, but they come in and out of positions, quickly because they think they can make money somewhere else. But I think very soon you're going to see movement again, because remember, for the last few weeks, there has not been much activity, in our company, which is a little bit unusual for us. Because if you look at all in the past, you'll see, I'm a strong believer of shareholder communication. So we put out a lot of news. But for the last few weeks, unfortunately, there's been quiet because we had to wait for breakup. We had to wait for all this. And this year in Smithers, the snow melted a lot. It was colder, so it's taken a lot longer. So there was this period. There was a lull. But in about 2 weeks, when you see the trucks rolling and taking, we have over 7,000 tons of mineralized material sitting in the mine right now that we finally got permission to take out. So we sent our first truck to the mill last month as a test. I'm very methodical, right? So we wanted to make sure everything was just perfect, right? And Bill fully supports me, in that methodology. So we sent that out. In about 2 weeks, the trucks are going to start rolling, and for the next 2 months, we're going to get all that 7,000 ton plus, very nice high grade material, and that we're expecting somewhere around 2,500 ounces to come out of that, plus the silver. So we're gonna actually pour our first, bar or coin or something we're going to pour. I'm very excited, probably at the end of July, early August, with that. And that again is going to bring back money back into the treasury.
And then what happens after 7,000 tons? I mean, how long does that take to work your way through?
We could, I think it's probably be 7-8 weeks. We can do it faster, but part of the strategy here also that we've been talking about is just getting the systems in place, so that for those few weeks, right, we'll be getting the material out of the mine. Bill and his team will be working on systems and the trucking and everything. So it's kind of like a bit of a blessing, for us, where we can actually use that time and develop a nice little system as we wait for our permits to
right. Well, that's what I'm getting at. Headline grabbing. We've poured some gold with 7,000 tons, which is sitting underground over 7-8 weeks. It's kind of like, it's great for the moment, but getting the systems in place, showing a route to market and a consistency of cash flow for the exploration program, so you're not running back to market for capital. That's interesting to me. I think that's really interesting to me. So you think you're going to be able to achieve that kind of consistency of flow to the mill?
Yeah.
Bill, there's probably one for you, isn't it?
I mean, that is a sweet spot to this entire project. When we first took a look at this 2 years ago, they wanted $60 million. It kind of fell through, but we liked the cash flow model that actually works. We can explore. I can drill. It all comes down to drilling, right? It all comes down to drilling. I need to prioritize where I'm going to drill. I need to focus on that. I need to run it efficiently. We get that going with the cash flow. We have years and years and years of exploration that we can do without diluting the company a bit. And that is the shining star of this project.
Right, but
as a geologist, I'm confident also that I have money coming in to spend. Many times I'll get on these projects and just plain run out of money.
I'm a buyer. You're not cash constrained going forward. So I think that's the great revelation to this story. It's fantastic. Drilling is most of the answer, but it's got to be to what end? So years and years of drilling is great, but this guy's got to go and build a story. Rana's got to go out there and say, well, here's the exit. Here's a plan. Here's what good looks like going forward. So, Rana, back to you. you're going to get years and years of data. And I tell you that this is something was sort of a real surprise to me. There are companies that we've been speaking to where people are bored of these high grade veins and headlines. They're like, well, now what? Show me. We get it. You've got lots of gold. What next? How do you manage that?
Well, I think that's a great point and a great question, right? I think that what I see here are beyond the production, the cash flow are really two key things, right? Number one, develop the boulder vein, theory, and prove it that there is over 1 million ounces sitting there. So that's the number one, right? And because then, as you know, that sweet spot of that 1 million ounce, is what everybody, likes, and get that report, be that traditional side, get that 44, 301 report, et cetera, done. So that's the first path. The second is, these multiple, targets. One of them at Free Gold is surrounded by this classic porphyry signature. Right? So it's untested. Look, exploration is not for the faint of heart, as you know, right? So the idea here is, and you talk about entrepreneurship. Well, what better entrepreneurial environment can be than exploration? In my opinion, that I've seen all these years of being in different businesses. So the second part of really is to go there and to go after and chase these targets to show that there is something significant. Once we have something significant, then there will be other players, bigger players, who will come and either want to JV with us or take it over. And that's at the point where somebody else needs to come in. So what is the exit? The exit is, as we develop this, to see what companies, what partners are going to want to come in here and take this to the next level. Because look, take a look at any company, right? Take a look at Great Bear, right? Where was Great Bear 2 years ago? Look at it where it is now. What changed? Exploration, aggressiveness, going out to drill, selling the story, getting people excited about it, but ultimately showing that you have something there. And it goes back to our original point, right? That if you can take the cash flow. Yes, you know why people get bored, by the way, of many of these stories? I was invested in many of them myself. I choose not to do that anymore because I choose to invest in what I'm involved in personally because I have much more control over that. Those investors get bored of those stories because it's dilute, keep drilling. And suddenly you start with a 20, 30 million share outstanding and suddenly you're at 3, 4, 500 million shares. How is that going to go anywhere? Right, it's very, very difficult unless you become a Great Bear and you find something, massive. But remember, all the Great Bear stories start with something like ours. You start, there's a starting point, and then you develop it, and then you manage it the best to your ability. I don't anticipate that we have to go to the market anytime soon. But at the same time, as an entrepreneur, as a responsible CEO, I'm still keeping my options open. I may in the next few weeks need to take a small amount from a strategic partner. I may need to do that if something gets delayed. But will that have to continue on an ongoing basis? No, I don't believe so, because I believe we'll be in production very soon.
I'm not okay. I like the theory, and lots of companies come on and make reference to Great Bear, and I know, Bill, you've worked on that. But there aren't that many Great Bears. And most of the companies talking about being a Great Bear never become a Great Bear. They don't even make it in any way, shape, or form. So I understand the theory. What I'm asking you specifically is, how do you manage someone like Bill? He's very excited because you're giving him a ton of cash to go and drill for the next few years. But you've got to convert that into a story for the market and help them understand what kind of business you're building here, how you develop all of the assets that you've got, either by bringing in strategic partners or, in terms of a JV, farm in, farm out, however you want to do these things. And what's your plan for what you've got? It may be a bit early days for this, but you understand the point I'm making, that you've got to have a plan about how value is created, not just through the drill bit, by how you position yourself. What are you trying to be?
Well, look, on the drill part, one of the things that I have a lot of respect for Bill, and I've tested them over the couple of years that I've been working with him, is he's not one of these geos who I give money to and he just goes crazy and starts drilling. I've tested him a number of times, and he is very, very smart with how he spends his money, and I'm the shareholders' money, right? So I'm very impressed with that. We stay in touch with. So when he says drill, what we're talking about is a carefully planned, a program. For example, when we stopped here now, I thought we were still going to keep going a few weeks ago, but he says, no, Rana, it's time to stop, for now. We need to reevaluate, we need to reassess. So, you just have to understand that, that's where I come in, right? That's where my judgment, my entrepreneurial, ship comes in to figure out the people that I'm working with, who's telling me what, does it make sense, does it not make sense? The technical side is their forte. I don't interfere with that. However, I do look at the business side of things and to make those decisions. So he's very good with that. And ultimately, though, how do you create value? Well, you create value, as we talked about, by showing that you have a path to going much bigger. That's really what it's all about. And I believe we have that path. We have that path because we have clear data that leads us to the million plus on our boulder vein, and we have clear data that gives us other targets. That we're not just pulling this out of thin air, right? This is the first property-wide airborne survey done ever on this property. I mean, everyone who looked at this, senior people were scratching their head thinking, "Wow, this is amazing! The whole thing just lit up." I mean, how come no one's done this before? Well, because this is why it's an under the radar property. Nobody, focused on it before.
Do you think this million ounce? I used to think like you do that as soon as you get a million ounce is the bare minimum to be interesting to anyone. There's so many million ounce projects out there at the moment of varying constructs, whether it be low grade or slightly higher grade stuff, that they're kind of boring. It's like you almost need to be 2 million ounces to get noticed these days. Do you know what I mean? There's been a sort of sea change in what's needed. So,
absolutely correct. But again, let me ask you, Matt, how many companies have you had, and I don't mean to be any disrespectful to any company, but how many companies have you had that have a permit in hand that will be in production this year?
I get that side of the story, and I understand that side of the story, but that money's going straight back in the ground. I'm trying to understand the scale of the opportunity that Bill's going to deliver you through drilling, right? And the targets that you're setting him. Million ounce seems to be a number which you're using right now. What do you think that's going to be enough?
Well, that's just one vein, right? That we're only talking about the one boulder vein system that we believe that we have 1 million plus ounces on. There's 15 other high grade known veins. This is not something that we have to go try to figure out where they are. We already know where they are. We have data. All of them have either some drill holes on them. Some of them have underground workings on them. We have lots of data, historical data on those 15. But again, that's only less than 10% of the entire package. I mean, this is like a dream, right, Bill?
Oh, it is. And one of the things we have to be cautious about when we talk about these targets is we're starting near mine, right? We can expand the resource that we have now, but we can prioritize free gold because it's so high grade. We can connect the two underground. So free gold can be part of the development story at Boulder. That's a good reason to start there. I can move 20 clicks away, but it'd be kind of hard to tie those two in a production story together. So we're going to start in the known and focus in efficient work, move out and incorporate all the resources we have, not only gold and silver, but we have fine porphyry targets, copper porphyry targets there as well.
Can we put you down for 15 million ounces? Can we?
Oh, the Norns are spinning now.
I said do the maths. I just did some maths. Okay. Well, that makes a lot of sense, Bill. I understand, that kind of stepping out, as it were, and joining those two makes a lot of sense. Look, I mean, Rana, I like the plan. It makes sense to me. I guess you got to get this guy the cash to be able to do that and up and running. What can we look forward to in the near term? You talked about you're already trucking. We're going to be seeing lots more trucks in the next few weeks, and therefore lots more cash flow coming through to allow this exploration story to take off.
Look, I think to me, it's all about execution, right? People. So I think when you see these trucks starting to roll here in the next 2-3 weeks, you're going to see that here's something that we said that we're going to do, and we're doing it. You're going to see the amendment work that we said that we're doing. We're finishing that off. You're going to see us submit everything to the ministry. You're going to see news coming out that we're pouring. We've got some gold coming. We got cash coming. Everything that we're talking about, you're going to see us starting to execute. You're going to see the drills start turning here, shortly here in the next few weeks as we finalize our permits. So all those things you're going to see, because it's going to be tremendous amount of activity. We just hired a new talent, a new underground geologist, an exploration geologist who's going to help us, who lives right, out in Smithers. Matt, that's one of the other amazing things that we have with this project is that we are literally less than 1 hour away from the town of Smithers. That's our main project. Big Onion is only 20 minutes away. So what does that mean? Senior people, don't want to be, sitting in Alaska or the Yukon, et cetera, anymore, right? They've paid their dues. They want to be near the town. So that's what we've been able to do, right? We've been able to bring in incredible talent, people who worked for, the big boys who now want to be close to their families. And we have all of those that Bill and his team is being strengthened, with some of that talent that we're bringing in, which is going to help tremendously.
Brilliant. Like Rana, Bill. Bill, sorry.
I'd like to add also that half of our employees are First Nations. We're developing a relationship with the First Nations. We've been talking with the LBN band for more people to come on this summer. So we have a really good thing going. Everybody working there except for me is local. They've all been working there. They all know the infrastructure, who to contact. We rent trucks from the mayor's husband. We have great First Nations contact. We have good environmental talks with the ministry. It's just a real good. It's a real good story. A real good close knit family here. You can drive to it. We have a mine permit in hand, and it's very prospective terrain.
Beautiful. Well, look, Rana, Bill, and first of all, Bill, lovely to meet you today. Thank you very much for the update. Looks like things have been moving and will continue to move at pace. Stay in touch with us and let us know how you get on. I like the way this has developed.
Thanks, Matt, for having us again. Appreciate it.
I appreciate the challenge.